topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hello and welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You. I am your host, Melanie Young, and I love having women like you and men join me to talk about how to live life to the fullest at every age and stage. If you've been following me and this show for the last 13 years, you know that a lot has evolved, and sometimes I do the show solo to share my inspiration on life and the challenges and overcoming them. And sometimes I have amazing guests. Over the years, I've gotten very picky about the guests I choose to have on my show. They have to be people who I admire and who I feel can give an amazing sense of their own unique perspective of life with you, my viewers and my listeners. My guest today, absolutely, I get goosebumps just thinking about the fact that I'm interviewing her. I've known her off and on for years because we are both members, or have been, of the prestigious Women in Fine Food and Beverage group, Les Dames d'Escoffier. She was a member of the New York chapter with me. She now lives in California. We're talking about the amazing author, essayist, food writer, Betty Fussell. She is joining us from her home in Casa Dorinda, Santa Barbara, California, where she lives now. She's actually a born and bred California girl who spent a lot of time on the East Coast. If you run around in book circles or food circles, you may know Betty because she's written 12 books, many on food and life. I just finished reading one of her most notable, which is her memoir, My Kitchen Wars. I highly recommend it. It really, as I read it, I thought about my grandmother and my mother and all the evolution of women in this world today, where we were then and where we are now. She also has written a book I'm currently reading of her amazing essays called Eat, Live, Love, and Die, published in 2018. But here's the thing. She's written another book, How to Cook a Coyote. We'll show the book. It has come out. The Joy of Old Age. And she's written it at the amazing young age of 98. So if you've not written a book yet, or maybe you're putting off writing that second book or third book like me, just remember that Betty Fussell has written her 12th book at age 98. And she's just as energetic as ever. And we're going to bring her on now because she's going to share her life and her amazing perspective on living life to the fullest. Betty, welcome to Fearless, Fabulous You.
Thank you so very much. I am honored, Melanie.
Betty, your energy comes through in your writing. I'm just amazed. Like I said, I've been reading 3 of your books. I've known your books for years, but I always go and revisit and really do a lot of prep for this show. You are a writer that I admire because you write about life, lust, joy, passion, and food. And you are natural at it, right?
You could call it so. I grew up a very lonely child. I didn't know that was going to be my lucky.
Well, it's interesting you say that because the revelations in My Kitchen Wars, your memoir, were amazing. You have a Scottish background. You grew up in what is termed as a Calvinistic, very tight-lipped, strict background. Talk to us about that and how you found your joy in what is otherwise a joyless time, growing up.
It was particularly joyless because I had a wicked stepmother right out of, those wicked stepmother books that scared little children. And my mother I didn't know, had killed herself. We thought we'd been told she had just, by mistake, taken some rat poison while her husband was off teaching teaching high school. And this was in Riverside, California. But my folks, like so many in California at that time, were escaping the farm depression. And so this was way, way back there during the Depression. And we had zero money because my father, as a school teacher, made no money whatsoever. And he had four, I think it was, or five mortgages to pay for. So we grew up poor, and you had to make your own way and figure things out for yourself. Only the church did it for us in my house when they were very, very strict evangelical types of worshipers. And I spent I was there at the church every day for one thing or another, for school or for skating lessons, of all things. We had our own little skating. You couldn't be anyplace else because this was the only place that was sacred, was the church. And my wicked stepmother told me I was going to hell anyway. So, I knew from the beginning I was no good.
So how did you overcome that? Because it really was that you called your stepmother to Dio, and it was a revelation that you found your mother, you thought absentmindedly put her fingers in the rat poison, but you quite later found it was not accidental. And that's very traumatic. How did you overcome this joylessness and trauma? I mean, that's an emotional trauma, and find your way to what brought you joy?
What brought me joy was working, and working meant doing something concrete. So as a child, I drew. I always had a pencil in my hand. And my grandparents, who had raised me after the death of my mother, taught me how to write by age 2, which is amazing. So I was writing little ditties, and I loved writing because nobody had to see them but me, and I could keep them secret. It's like a secret diary. And I loved turning out little, because I was dependent upon nobody. It was all inside me. How wonderful. I didn't have to wait for somebody, like a teacher.
Did you keep a lot of diaries as a child? And as you grew, did you journal throughout your life?
Yes, I did. I kept, yes, I always had a diary hidden away, mm-hmm. under my mattress if needed, And I loved writing down because it made it real. Otherwise, it was just floating around in my head.
I still have my diaries from when I was 6, and I've been keeping diaries ever since. I've fallen off a little bit this year because I'm funny about the diaries I write in, and I brought the wrong diary. I'm very funny about the shape and size of the book I write in and longhand. But I find them, like you, they really are sacred. The first thing I packed up when I left New York was I said, we got to take care of the diaries.
Right. And I encourage everybody who's, everybody has a story. Everybody is a story. Mm-hmm. And I always encourage people to write it down, because you will forget it. And if you have kids, if you have family, they won't even know. When they find out, they'll be delighted.
Well, what's interesting is just to think about it, you were born in 1927. I mean,
yes,
it's a century ago. So much changed in the world that you follow it in My Kitchen Wars. And, you were an academic's wife. Your former husband, now late former husband, Paul Fussell, was a successful academic. And right. you were in academic circles, but you longed to be in that world as a legitimate writer, and you were not necessarily encouraged.
Oh, not only not encouraged, but get back to the kitchen where you belong.
Right.
And my husband really thought women were another species. And if they put their nose outside the kitchen, something was wrong with them.
You mastered the kitchen, though. And what's interesting, Betty, is you mastered it self-taught, reading the books and following the recipes of Julia Child, who became your friend, and Craig Claiborne and many others. You became a master in the kitchen, which kind of took you into the opportunity to gain a career in food writing. So you broke through the bonds that were set. You attained a master's degree and a PhD in English to teach, because you have to have that. That was not easy at your time.
I fought for it each time.
Yes.
But I happened, I mean, good luck. I was in the age of revolution, which I was. I came at the right time with Julia. Julia rescued women from the kitchen by putting her on television. Woo!
Yeah. I know you were friends with her, right?
And I was at her. Yes, I was friends because by that time I was living in New York. Right. I had left California, and I was doing journalism, and I was assigned, I forget for which magazine, to do a story on this woman who had just written this book called The Masters of American Cookery, and was about to launch her first television program. Mm-hmm. And since I was in Boston, I mean, nearby, getting a degree in Harvard, because women couldn't go to getting a degree in medical because women were not allowed in Harvard.
Right.
Everything else.
Colleges. Yes.
And I got to attend that first television show, and it was so exciting because nothing like that had happened in America. Americans thought, American Puritan culture, we thought food was animal and degrading and not to ever to be talked about. Is like going to the toilet. Don't talk about that in polite company. And I was baffled by that because I had met Julia, and we became friends, and she took me immediately to her house and her kitchen, and I am so grateful to her forever. Thank you, Julia.
Well, she's an inspiration for me for many reasons. One, she found her voice after the age of 50 and published. And I stand for that because I'm vehemently against ageism at every level. And I had the opportunity to work with Julia too, because I started the James Spirit Awards and I got to take her around and escort her. And I found her delightful and mastering the art of French cooking. I think I have 3 copies of it now because I inherited some. It's just so treasured. What was some advice she gave you as you were pursuing your still fairly nascent writing career?
She really just talked. We talked about food and the kitchen and the precision, and that in itself was fascinating. A recipe with it would take you half a day to make the preliminary to the dish you were making. So she taught me process and the joys of process and why it was necessary. And from my point of view, I was learning the joys of food because the food in my house was absolutely crappy. And my father did the cooking because my wicked stepmother was a doctor of osteopathy, and she thought cooking food way beneath her. It's amazing. I wanted to know, what does it mean to be an American? That's what interested me because I was an American and the world was opening up then. I mean, because of World War I and World War II, we had to become aware of other nations. And the speed of all these revolutions that happened in my particular 100 years were so amazing. Like the airplane. My grandfather had never, at his death, and he lived a long time, had never put foot in an airplane because, as he said, if God wanted men to fly, he would have given them wings. And he's the man who crossed the prairies and fought Indians, and he crossed the prairies in a wagon. It's so strange because every revolution that happened, and they happened so many, was giant. As we are talking today. Look at that.
We're still in a revolution. We're in a technology revolution now. But I mean, you went through 2 wars, World War I, World War II, rationing, the Great Depression. People now don't, younger people, those young people, they don't know what it's like to really suffer and struggle through a depression and not having food. And I mean, we're kind of getting there because food's getting really expensive now, but the necessity, they don't know what it's like to be told you can't write. Your late husband, your late former husband, Paul, said, you can't write. He really said you couldn't write. He said, you belong in the kitchen. Like, to being put in your place. I don't even know that. My mother was lucky. My father put her on a pedestal and let her get a 2 master's degree and teach and all that.
Where did she get her master's degree? Who would take her? What school?
University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. She went to Sophie Newcomb, the women's college, where I also went in New Orleans, and then gave up a career to work at the United Nations to marry my father. He likewise gave up a promising career in the military. He was a West Point grad. They settled in Chattanooga, where she grew up. And she had a master's. She was a speech therapist. Her major was speech and communications. But while doing that and working as a speech therapist, she got a master's degree in psychologist as a psychologist.
Of course, psychology was revolutionary.
Right. Well, like you, she was an actor. So you acted. You were bursting with creativity, much like my mother. My mother lived at not a Calvinistic world, but she was in a nice Jewish family. You had to follow. My grandmother used to lie and say, my daughter doesn't work. She's a volunteer.
Yes. That's
it. Good rules didn't work. But my mother, unlike you, my mother hated to cook. For you, food became an escape. It became a joy. It became a carnal pleasure, a sensuous and sensual pleasure. Your writing exudes that. I mean, just to share some of the books that you mentioned, Embracing America, Masters of American Cookery, 1984. I Hear America Cooking, 1997. I'm skipping around. The Story of Corn, really just an amazing book. Crazy for Corn. And, your corn books are pretty. And then you wrote My Kitchen, Raising Steaks. But interestingly, your first book was not about food. And it was in 1982. How old were you when you published your book, which is called Mabel, Hollywood's First I Don't Care Girl? So it's kind of an interesting independent type girl.
Our kitchen was terrible. As I say, my father did the cooking. The wicked stepmother was a doctor of osteopathy and thought cooking was very beneath her. So she never liked to she kept her foot out of the kitchen. My brother hated this, my brother who was 4 years older, because he thought it made a patsy out of my henpecked father and gave him shame thereby. So this is all screwed up. It was so different. And I was fascinated by why was food considered almost evil, and why did it have these connotations of stay out of the kitchen and before Judith. And in trying to answer that question, it led me into what does it mean to be an American? Because other countries were not like this. France was not once I got to France. Italy was not this way. It was just Puritan Americans, the Puritan part of Britain, who rebelled against came over, and the Puritans, of course, that's their name. They're pure of animal instinct. So I went head ho for animal. Let's find out about animal instinct.
And you did. You had, you clearly admit that you had affairs. You explored your animal instincts. You did it with joy. I mean, you had to, because you couldn't live as a suppressed woman.
Well, I couldn't live as a single. I mean, what was it about? I was, I had to understand. Please let me understand. What's my body for? What's wrong with screwing somebody?
It's not just a vessel to make babies, you can have pleasure.
You don't want the baby.
So animal instinct, speaking of animal instinct, so you've, How to Cook a Coyote. Obviously, anyone who loves MFK Fisher thinks of How to Cook a Wolf. And yes. I am a huge MFK Fisher fan, have all her books. You wrote this. There's so many metaphors about a coyote. I looked them up online because in the indigenous worlds, the coyote symbolizes a lot. Talk to us about The book is called How to Cook, and Juan, my engineer, let's put the book cover back up in a small corner. How to Cook a Coyote, The Joy of Old Age. There's two powerful messages. If the How to Cook a Coyote, which people, a lot of them, when I posted this on social media, they're like, well, that's interesting. But The Joy of Old Age really interested me as someone who had to caretake her mother in a fairly joyous last year of her life at 88, and you can approach old age certain ways. How did these two themes come together, and how come the Coyote?
In my view, the real title of the book is How to Cook a Coyote and How to Enjoy. So it's two recipes. Mm-hmm. One is cooking a coyote, and the other is for enjoying old age. So how can those possibly crazy things to begin with, how can they possibly go together as a how-to?
Right.
So, and I found the more I investigated, the more alike they became. And first you have to find your coyote, because if you live in the city, but people didn't always live in the city. And coyotes, it turns out, were the only animal to be native to the Western Hemisphere. All the others came by ship. They came across the waters, one ocean or another, Europe or China. Mm-hmm. And that was astonishing to me. So the coyote has very special existence in America and South America. And America got rid of the coyote insofar as it could, because it had no status, because it didn't come from abroad. It came from the cruddy old the place of Indians, and we know what happened to the Native American Indians.
Yes. Well, so coyotes are considered wild. I know. We grew up fearful of coyotes. I grew up in Tennessee. There weren't a lot but there were coyotes, and they ran in packs. So they were scary because A, they ran in packs. B, they ate little dogs. And we had little dogs, and we didn't like them.
You're hungry. You eat what's there. If it's a kid, okay.
Yeah, it's like How to Cook wolf. If you're hungry, you will tame and eat what you need to feed your soul and nourish yourself.
Yes,
whether you like it or not. Interestingly, in your book, you do have these, the coyote theme runs through. It's also the tough meat. It's a tough animal, and you have to tame it, which is kind of how growing old is not easy either.
But the wonderful thing about the coyote is that he is physically the least fierce and of all the predator animals. There are wolves, go on up the line. Because he's smaller and he doesn't have the physical strength, and so he has to have something else. And what he has is smarts. He's smart. He is tricky. He disguises. He can't do it by knocking out the wolf with his paw, because the wolf is bigger and stronger. So he has to play games. So he'll pretend to run away, and he'll sneak around the back and hit him in the ribs.
Well, historically, coyotes are known they've been described as cunning, trickster. Wile E. Coyote was a cartoon character. He was a very crazy troublemaker.
He had to be smart because he couldn't be strong enough, which is the human condition, as you can see. So we share this with coyote. We're much closer to coyotehood than we are to being a wolf.
Also, they're known for being resilient and adapting, which you have to do in life, right? Resilient and adapting.
They're shape changers, and that's part of their smarts. And then they're also actors. They're sort of everything I was. Therefore, I identified very quickly with the powers of coyote.
So the book itself is essays and kind of it embraces your life now. You sold your home in the East Coast and moved into Casa Dorinda, where Julia also lived. Is it an independent life care center? Would you call it? independent?
It's an old folks home. It's an old folks home.
Okay. Well, independent care is supposed to be like the euphemism for old folks home. I
as you know.
You write about it. You've been there. How many years have you been there now, Betty?
It's either it's 15 or 20, and I never quite remember which.
So one of the poignant things you wrote, I mean, and you write about the Breakfast Club and the rituals and getting together, but the rituals are important. So talk to us about the rituals that you embrace, which are meaningful to you now.
I always hated repetition. So I'm somebody who never liked to repeat. Oh, I've done that. It turns out in my old age, I adore repetition. I count on rituals, and that the rituals I developed in most of my life, I've lived alone, even though I had a husband and 2 children and a lot of lovers, but that just means life. But I learned that, I've forgotten what I was going to say. That's also part of it.
Well, you talked about you when you were younger, you didn't like repetition. You like to be
yes.
around, and now you embrace rituals, repetition.
I embrace ritual like crazy. And I was very curious, why is this? Why does during COVID, when a lot of friends died at Casa Dorinda, where I am, and we couldn't see them, we couldn't say goodbye to them because we couldn't, the infection. And to this day, my heart aches. And what I do, my device here, I put them in the moon. So every time there's a big full moon, I can say, hello, Pat, hello, Betty, because they have to be someplace because they're so strong in my memory and because I never got ready to say goodbye to them. So I'll keep on saying goodbye until I join them in the moon.
Well, COVID was so hard on so many people. It was devastating for both my mother and my mother-in-law. And really, at that point, their lives took a downturn. The quality of their lives took a downturn for the isolation that they experienced.
Yeah. And that is the biggest surprise to me of all, because I have, in effect, always lived alone. Even when I was married, I was living alone.
Yeah.
You
did have 2 children. You did have 2 children.
I did have 2 children, and they got neglected thereby. Because, I learned to take care of myself. What you will learn is how to take care of yourself. And they did. Mm-hmm. What they didn't learn was the joys of family, because I had not ever experienced that.
Right.
So that is my deepest regret, and I apologize to them every night. If the moon comes out, it keeps you busy apologizing. So I'm also so joyful that they managed to survive their neglectful parents and survived in health and have had perfectly wonderful lives. But what they don't have and won't is the joys of their own children. But they've got all the rest. They have the talent and they've had the wonderful experience, and I adore each of them.
So, again, you're 98, you're approaching a century. I had long talks with my mother, who passed away at 88. My mother willed herself to die, which was very devastating and a whole nother thing. She refused to eat. She just said, this is the year she decided this is the year I will die. She said, this is the year I will die. And that's that. How do you face, as you write in the book, we all are going to the same end.
We're all going to die. Yeah.
Right. So how do you embrace, what do you say to people about embracing the rest of the journey, and how do you approach it?
First of all, language. Say die. You're going to die. You're not going to pass over. I hate euphemisms. Use the words that apply. Don't be scared. And because it's what kind of creature would create a creature that lived on other creatures before it became a fodder to the next creature? It's crazy. And that bothered me from the beginning of my recognition of what a crazy world we live in. But is that there are different attitudes toward that? Does that make you sad? Does that make you happy? Well, that's a little weird, but I want to understand that. And nobody could answer my questions. The church I was in, I was no good at all. They just said, well, you're going to hell or heaven. Going to hell or heaven? Where are they? As somebody said, they are now and you are in it. Whatever, whichever, both. So, yes. What was the question again?
Well, I think it's a very personal approach to how you live the rest of your life. Are there things that you do differently now? I mean, obviously you have macular degeneration, so your lack of sight is a challenge. So you do have a physical challenge. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the physical challenges and the mental challenges which come, well, you don't seem to have any mental challenges, but the physical challenges of aging?
They absolutely go together. And the physical challenges are there's so little you can do about it, even with all of the great worship of science. I just hope to pass on without inconveniencing somebody else in a drastic way, which is why I've been an old folks instead of living off one of my kids, So I encourage people to come to live with others. That is the great surprise. Me who lived alone. What do I adore here? Other people, and whoever they are, however crazy, however intelligent or remote, just to brush shoulders is a joy, because it's temporary, but you're all going to end up in the same place. Isn't that odd? It is funny. Yes, we're all on the boat, and the boat's going to sink.
And I always say that, and people think I'm being morbid, but it is the reality. So live life every day. Live life on your terms every day as a result of that. So you do have some rituals that I think are interesting, Betty. First of all, you go to the market. You enjoy going to the market. You have a beautiful farmer's market, and you go and you have your vendors, and that is a ritual of joy. And you also listen, I love this, to opera and classical music on Saturday mornings.
Because I had the joy of living in New York and going to the Met.
Me too.
And there's nothing like opera. And I was also blessed by the Depression in California, because where did Madame Schumann retire? That great opera star. She retired to Riverside, California. And because it was Depression, she gave money to the high school, not the high school, but the college that was free there. You could have a college. She gave money to have opera performed by local people. And so I heard opera from the beginning of my childhood. Imagine, it was everything I loved: drama, showbiz, music, all on the stage before me. It's just, I would live from opera to opera. A great reward. Thank you, Madam Schumann.
I think that, as you get older, and well, throughout life, forget as you get older, because when I was going through cancer treatment for breast cancer, and my mind was not right with chemo, I had something called chemo brain. I would go to the Metropolitan Opera and just sit and just the music is very therapeutic. And I think if you can't see, or maybe you can't move a lot. My mother watched opera and was watching the Nutcracker like all day before she died. The Nutcracker ballet.
Yes. Yes. And why is music is necessary to us? Why?
Yes.
Because it puts us in another world. And I don't know what world that is, but that world, if we go deaf, we'll remember it.
Well, I have a question. So since you have challenges with your vision, do you listen to books on tape?
I'm not a fan of books on tape, because the readers are usually so bad. I used to read for the blind in New York. I would do the recordings, and I loved doing it. But I love reading aloud because we were trained to do that in Riverside, California, with the free school. These are all the blessings of, depression. And so reading is if it's the author reading, fine. Otherwise, the words are apt to come like this, and there goes all the rhythm. No, thank you.
I love reading aloud. It's interesting, Betty. I've been a writer all my life. My parents were both writers. Arts are really important. On and on. My mother acted like you. When I sleep, the older I've gotten, I write stories in my sleep. I just wish they could record them while I'm sleeping because they're great. Does that ever happen to you?
Well, because recording is the key here. Yes, I'm always waking up in the middle of a story, of my creation or somebody's creation, but it's getting through. But I can't remember it. And my daughter gave me a little what do you call it? When you talk into a microphone.
Yeah.
But because of my eyesight, it is too complicated. All of these devices to help to get rid of the problems of blindness, they all seem dependent upon being able to see that tiny series of little buttons that must all be pressed in the right order, or you're not going to be able to open it. That's what happened with this little recorder. So I am on the lookout for a recorder that will record the message, then read it back aloud to me, then allow me to return and change it, to edit what I've just written. It's that.
There's got to be something like that. I'm sure there is something. And Lighthouse of the Blind may have it. I mean, have you had to learn Braille or no?
No, I tried Braille for a while, and that's it. It wasn't for me, and it's hard to explain. It wasn't just that the institute that developed, the Braille is run like a machinery. It's mechanical, and that worked for me. So I have not solved this problem of something that will record and then revise under my direction without using. There's a little button right up. Oh, see here, it's right up there. Don't you see it? No, I don't see it. Do you feel it? No, because it's next to another little button just like it.
The challenge is, I have friends who are dealing with mobility issues right now. Terrible mobility. And my mother never got up after she broke her hip. That was a problem.
God.
I know. Yes, we know how that goes. I've done shows on that. So has your palate changed? Because a lot of people say, the older you get, your palate changes or your tolerance for food. Have you felt your palate has changed? Has anything grown more stronger in sensation or less appealing?
All of the above, because palates are very sensitive.
Right.
And it's like the rest of the body. The palate kind of slows down. Some things don't change. Some things do. Now, I never had a taste for sugar. That was a lucky thing. But me
neither.
My taste.
What about alcohol? Do you drink cocktails and wine? I have to tell you, after reading my kitchen waters, I just wanted to have a Burgundy, because in the book, you and your then husband are in Europe and you're traveling and you go to Berg de Bresse and do the chickens, and you're drinking Chenin Blanc and Loire and Burgundy. And I said yesterday, for our wedding anniversary, we were at Commander's Palace here in New Orleans. I was like, I just want a really good glass of Burgundy, just one glass. That's all I want, and I did.
And liquor means so much to my generation, because we went through prohibition and all the no-no. And so naturally I'm going to drink, and my taste for drinks I have one cocktail each night. And this is part of the ritual of, during the day I can write, and then it's at 5 o'clock. It's time to stop. this was in New York. Go to the local bar just down the end of the road, and you're immediately with friends, the bartender, the same people come every night, and you are in company, and you can eat at the bar, or you can go next door for food.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ritual I want, and I can't. My body craves it, so I go to the what we have, the grill, as opposed to the main dining room, to the bar, because it's like a New York bar. I sit at the bar, and there's my favorite bartender, etc. It's part of it's hugely ritual.
Do you have a cocktail that you like, a specific cocktail? Julia liked the reverse martini. What about you? What do you like as a cocktail?
The martini is too strong for me now in my old age. So I have, my favorite has been for a long time, forgotten its name, so I'll tell you. My current one is the Cadillac martini, and the Cadillac, what's the Mexican drink? Mojito.
Oh, you like a mojito? Wow, you go for the tequila, girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, I like a strong drink, and with lots of flavor, and that's it. Only one, and then on to whatever the night. I can have a glass of wine if I'm really thirsty, but that's not usual. It's usually just my one martini.
Actually, a mojito is usually, it could be tequila, but it's often pisco, which I like. I love pisco.
Yes.
Yeah, pisco. So I'm finding it's more difficult to have hard spirits. I drink a lot of wine, but hard spirits are very hard for me. At Commander's Palace yesterday, they have 25-cent martinis at lunch. My husband had 2. I know. 25.
Knock me.
I know, it's unique to Commanders at lunch, and they allow you 3. After 3, as Dorothy Parker said, you're under the table, and then at 4, you're under somebody else. I did the 3 once, and I was under the table and had to do the walk of shame to pick up my belongings. Oh, it's so embarrassing. I stuck with thanks to you, my beautiful glass of white Burgundy, which I nursed with my fish. But my husband had the 50 cents worth of martinis, and he took a long snoring nap when he got home. But it was a lot of fun. My friends are now, my peers are in their 60s and 70s, and everybody loves the ritual of having a cocktail. Thank God I live in a city, New Orleans, where the cocktail is king, and nobody has this fear of getting sick or they're going to die from alcohol like some places.
I used to go once a year because I had a friend who had moved there, and she was a very close. And we would have a ritual barbecue. So what was it? It was one of those. It was a football night, so they could watch football and baste the turkey at the same time. So it had to be on Thanksgiving. So
the great thing is, everything evolves around eating and drinking down here. And I don't think I could live in a community where eating and drinking is not important. I mean, I lived in New York. I grew up in Tennessee. Eating and drinking was good there. It was just different. But it's such an integral part of my life and yours. What do you want your last meal to be? If you could choose your last meal?
I used to ask that. I mean, I made it.
Oh, really?
when I was I would ask people that question when I was reporting and report the answers. And it was funny because you would, the kinds of repetition expected and the kinds of very unexpected. And the last meal, I used to have a formula for that, and that has completely changed. And I think I got tired of answering the question, what do I want for my last meal? But I don't remember what my trick was. So I'll have to say, I don't let her. That's the Coyote says, I won't let her.
Well,
Have a laugh.
it probably won't be Coyote, Sue, but your book is an amazing book. I just recently wrote that I don't want my last meal to be salad. I eat a lot of salad, but I don't want that to be my last meal. I want my last meal to be a beautiful plate of pasta just showered with truffles. And then I said, you can sprinkle the rest of them over my grave. It's like just sprinkle truffles over my grave, please. That's really all I want.
Just tell me when you go.
I will, and it'll be a big party too. Well, first of all, I'm still trying to get, my own memoir out about my life in food, and about 4 others that keep popping up in my sleep going, Melanie, start writing the damn book. I love the book. I loved all your books. Okay. In 98, you published as a book. Most people in 98 are not even around. You're around and you're still doing really well. You've got amazing energy. You've gotten great reviews. I just read the New York Times review, lots of reviews for How to Cook a Coyote, The Joy of Old Age. Wonderful, wonderful gift to give people as well, for people who are, thinking about the joy of life and, as I call it, moving on in your journey. That's how I call it, moving on in your journey. What are you going to do now that you have the book out, you're out promoting it and everything? Is there anything else you want to do? Is that last?
And as soon as I get a dictating machine, I'm at work on something called Murder in Montecito.
Oh.
Set, of course, it's where I actually live. Not a romantic. It's my first real fiction. Only, of course, I know an awful lot of people for whom this would be an appropriate book. So,
well, I hope I get to read it.
I hope I get to write it. Find me a thing I can use, and it is not full of little buttons I have to push.
Mm-hmm. I know, we got to find that, or someone just to help you. My mother dictated to me when she was bedridden in her final year. I sat and she just kept talking, and I would write everything down because she had a column, the column articles, and I just did that for her. So that's another thing to think about, is get someone who's willing to write. You speak and they write it down for you.
But I've tried that too. I think I've tried everything I could. Mm-hmm. And I need to write alone. I think what are they going to think of this? It's a hazard if you're used to being absolutely alone, and that's part of the joy.
Yeah. Well, point well taken. Well, hopefully we'll find you a wonderful recorder that doesn't involve lots of buttons. Meanwhile, I love the fact that you have your stuffed coyotes. My mother, when she would do interviews at 88, she had all her giraffes around her, stuffed giraffes, because she had a thing for giraffes. She'd raised millions of dollars to have a giraffe exhibit created in the zoo. And so giraffes are everywhere. So I love that you have your symbolic coyotes and this terrific book. Yeah. Again, as we wrap up, we've been talking with Betty Fussell, who has more energy than many people I know at 30 years younger than you. She is living life to her fullest at 98 with a new book, How to Cook a Coyote, The Joy of Old Age. We should all have the same joy that you find in living every day at every age and stage of our life.
And I wish everyone joy, because as I say, every day, if you thank the powers that be, you're thanking them for the first day and the last day of your life at the same time. Because
exactly. Yeah. I mean, Dylan Thomas once said, we once we're born, we begin to die. It was a profound comment, but it's true. You're born, exactly. And then there's the end, and everything in between. You have to decide how you want to live. Which, again, thank you, Betty. As I always wrap up my show, I like to say to the people that my listeners and viewers on the why I created this show is that you have choices in life on how you can live. Always choose to live life on your terms and not on the terms that others place on you and expect of you.
Yes.
That don't bring you joy. Make sure that you can expand your horizons, break through those barriers, and become the person you are intended to be and wish to be at every age in your stage. And always choose fearless and fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Happy day, everybody. It's a
happy
beautiful
day. Thank you.